Prime Minister Putin was in Minsk to discuss the union with Belarus while President Lukashenko was in Venezuela, which I don't think Putin probably took very well. I imagine he took that as a direct insult and affront. Meeting with Prime Minister Sadorsky doesn't quite meet up to Putin's standards, I don't think. I don't think that the state of the Belarusian-Russian union and relationship is in very good shape. Belarus, I think, is looking for alternatives, but Russia is applying pressure. Interestingly, as we all know, Lukashenko has not yet played the card of recognition of South Ossetia and Abkhazia, and the smartest thing for him to do is to keep that in his pocket. Once he plays that card, it's over. But keeping that in his pocket means that the Russians still want him to do it, but he's smart to refuse to do it. So the state of the union doesn't seem to be moving very far. It has been in this state, I think, now almost a dozen years, and it still hasn't progressed to anywhere near like either Lukashenko or first Yeltsin, now Putin, and then Medvedev had in mind. They don't even have a common currency. This is the new customs union now with Kazakhstan, which Russia is trying to pressure Ukraine into joining. It all seems to always fall short of expectations. And in certain respects, Lukashenko has done a decent job of protecting Belarus from being absorbed by Russia, but he also uses that vis-a-vis the West as a way to try to leverage the West in his favor. Lukashenko is not a dumb guy. He knows how to play Russia and the West off of each other. And we have to remember that our policy toward Belarus has never been, or shouldn't be driven, by the state of Russian-Belarusian relations, but it should be driven by how Lukashenko behaves domestically. Putin seems to be the one who is taking the lead in dealing with Belarus more than Medvedev. I don't think that the issue of Belarus is going to be a major factor in the Putin-Medvedev relationship. The customs union is an issue that seems to be of greater interest to Putin than to Medvedev. And I don't think Medvedev has a great deal of interest in meeting with Lukashenko very often. Nobody in Moscow seems to like Lukashenko. Yeltsin didn't like him. Medvedev doesn't seem to like him. Putin doesn't like him. He doesn't have many friends in Moscow. And yet, I don't think Russian leaders have figured out what alternative there may be that they could take advantage of. So it's a situation where I think the Russian leaders are stuck in a certain degree with a problem that they don't know how to fix. And I think Lukashenko knows that. Oppositions in Belarus and Russia do have different challenges. The opposition in both countries has had difficulty sustaining its movement, getting airtime, even holding rallies and assembling to protest the government. And there are some similarities that they can get together with and consult about. I think it is useful for Russian opposition figures to provide moral and other kinds of support to opposition in Belarus. The opposition in Belarus is in even worse shape than it is in Russia. And it's important, I think, for Russian opposition figures to stress the importance of unity among the opposition in Belarus. But at the same time, there isn't a great deal of unity among opposition figures in Russia either. So in both countries, the opposition aren't in very good shape. Even though there have been these protests taking place with a little more frequency in Russia, particularly calling for Putin to step down. There isn't a similar movement in Belarus, unfortunately, but I hope there might be. The United States supported the Eastern Partnership when it was unveiled in 2009, and it is a way for the European Union to deepen ties with the 6 countries that are part of this. The problem is that the 6 countries are very different, and so the EU has to tailor its approach to each country individually, which it's doing. I think it's a good initiative. I think it should not, in the case, say, of Ukraine, become an excuse not to offer a prospect of eventual membership one day. That isn't in the cards for Belarus, obviously. But the Eastern Partnership can be, I think, a useful mechanism to deepen ties between the EU and these 6 countries, and the United States has supported that. Russia, on the other hand, has criticized it. Foreign Minister Lavrov accused the EU of trying to lure these countries away from Russia's sphere of influence. That isn't what the EU is trying to do with the Eastern Partnership. It's simply trying to deepen ties, offer support for reform in these countries. The relationship with Belarus is obviously the most complicated because there doesn't seem to be a great deal of interest on Lukashenko's side to carry out the reforms that come with a true partnership in this effort. But overall, I think it's a good initiative.